Recording. There we go.
It's going now? Okay.
Okay,
perfect.
we're good. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Joyce.
Hi.
I always love joining this group and the energy that you bring, Joyce. We always joke that Joyce has way more energy than I do, and I think we switch places. She's like the millennial. I think I'm supposed to be 30 years old or 40 years. But the reason I do the work that I do is I've used this language before, but I think I just had my existential crisis earlier than most and just realized that I wanted my life and my work to be more meaningful and more purposeful. And I got to that point by experiencing work that was really unfulfilling. And it quickly kind of triggered something within me in realizing how much time we spend working and, what a waste it would be to spend that time doing something that wasn't meaningful and energizing and enjoyable. So I'm really passionate about helping others get to that point where how they spend their time is truly fulfilling. I typically work with people who are in their 40s to 60s, because typically that's the point in life where you start having those bigger questions. And so I really enjoy serving that population. I do both coaching work around career transitions, and then I also do business coaching for people who are starting something new and want to help bring that creative vision to life, or performance coaching for more established organizations. So with all that said, I'll get into the content for today around redefining success, and I will share my screen in doing that. Just let me know, Joyce, if it's not perfectly lining up, and I'll shift it over a little bit. Okay.
Oh, looks good to me.
Looks good? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I see the slide and then I see you on the right, so that looks just fine.
Okay, perfect. So why talk about redefining success? So many of the people I work with and, reflections in my own life, there's this word success carries so much baggage, based on messages we're told from our parents, from, people around us, from our education, from our training, from the places we work, from the culture, society at large. We receive so many messages about what success means and what it looks like. And for most of us, myself included, until I started doing this work, I didn't really take a second to sit back and think about what success actually meant to me and how I wanted to redefine it for myself and set goals in line with it. So this process that I'm going to take you through today is something that it's been really helpful for me and the people I work with in creating a work life and just a life that is truly nourishing and allows you to feel more aligned in who you are and how you're showing up in your work and in your life on a daily basis. So with all that said, the first thing I want to hear from all of you is, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the word success? And I'd love you to share in the chat box so we can kind of get a sense of the different perceptions that are out there. So I'll leave a couple minutes here and feel free to share your thoughts. Money. Thank you, Mike. I'd be shocked if that wasn't the first answer. Fulfillment. Money, fulfillment, being happy with what you're doing personally and professionally. Freedom. I like that. Life and work in alignment with your values. Yes. Money and financial freedom. 100%. What else? Achieving fulfilling goals and healthy relationships. Yes. Thank you for pointing out the relationships piece. That's so important. Peace in my life, completing your goals. That's an interesting one. We're going to talk about completing goals today. Patricia, feeling I have a place to contribute that is valued, a life that is rich and fulfilling. Less bad stress. I like the specificity of bad stress. As some of us know, there's good stress. Your reputation. Awesome. Okay, so we have a lot of different ideas around success means. And based on what a lot of you are sharing, it sounds like you've had some time to reflect on this for your own life as well. Lynn, blend your life, community development, finances, goal setting, work around ADHD. Hey, fellow ADHD, let's go. All right. Thank you all for humoring me and sharing some of your thoughts. So the first real tangible activity I want us to work on is actually fleshing out some of these messages that we've received about what success means and looks like. And I want you to think about it through the lens of both a process orientation and an outcome orientation. So process is a little more present focus. It's like, what do I need to be doing every day to be successful? A lot of this stems from more values work, like maybe the values our parents taught us about what's important and how to be a good human being. Then there's messages that are more outcome oriented about a future focus. Typically, when we set goals, we spend a way more time in the second category, the outcome, more than the process. And there's value to both. But for the sake of the activity, I want you to flesh out your own 2 columns and see what you can come up with. And I'll give you a couple minutes here to think about it and let me know if you have any questions as you're going through this.
Should we be able to scroll up on this right now?
Scroll up on the slide.
Yeah, no.
No, there's only,
Okay.
there's 3 examples listed. If you see all 3, then you're good. And when you feel like you have a solid list, just give a little thumbs up or a sign in the chat. Let me know you're ready. All right, I see a lot of you already. I'll give one more minute. All right. Everyone feeling good? Ready to move on? Okay. So part one is recognizing and seeing what those messages actually are, which we may or may not have spent some time actually thinking about. Part two is reflecting on these messages and how they've impacted us thus far in our life. A lot of the messages that we've received, we've subconsciously adopted or consciously adopted based on where we've been at in our life. So I want you to take a minute to look at your list and think about how each of these messages have impacted you. Have some created more stress or internal conflict for you in trying to achieve that metric? Have some felt more inspiring and led to more fulfilling processes or outcomes for you? And then part 2 and 3 is where we get a little bit specific with looking at the intrinsic lens and extrinsic lens of what you felt driven towards. So messages that you feel intrinsically driven towards are intrinsic because the process itself is personally meaningful, rewarding, and or enjoyable. Something is extrinsic because the reward of doing so, or it is something you want, or you're avoiding the punishment of not doing or doing said thing. Again, and I'll speak to this more a little bit later, this is not about demonizing one versus the other. Both measures have a place in our lives, but it's important to first get clear on what it is that's actually driving us to each, so that we can be more intentional in setting goals that we really want and that feel aligned with who we are right now. So I'll give you a couple minutes again to look at what you've written down so far in your columns and make a little note on the side of your reaction to each, of how it's influenced you, whether it feels intrinsic or extrinsic. And then I'm going to ask you to do some shares. So let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything that's not clear about the activity. Laura, I'm seeing your message now. There's what I've been told that I'm supposed to do or be by others, and then what I think and feel within myself. So I want to call out, just as you're going through this, that something you were told by someone else could still be true for you now. So for example, a value that my dad instilled in me was integrity and just always being honest in his relationships. And that's something that he measured success by, like his ability to stay in integrity. And that's something that I got from him and I want to keep. It's something that still I feel true within myself. So both can be true. And then there's other messages that I got that maybe don't feel true to me anymore. And again, let me know when you feel ready or you have some solid reflections for each of your messages. Yeah, Laura, so you said having multiple learning disabilities and life-altering injuries has led you to alter your ideas on success, right? So the new experiences that we have shape our perspective, which is why it's so important to actually redefine them so we're not acting in accordance with old scripts that don't serve who we are anymore. Cool. Patricia, Mike, you're ready. Lori, ready. Carol. So for those of you who are ready, I'd love a brave soul to share out loud one of your reflections. What was your how did one of the messages impact you in your life? Mike, I see you're unmuted, so I'm going to call you out.
Yeah, I was just trying to think which so I've been going through a midlife crisis the last like 3 or 4 years. Now I'm 51, but it's actually started years and years ago where I was in a job where I was successful financially and also professionally, and it was just unfulfilling. So I actually wound up leaving that a couple years ago. And it was probably one of the scarier things I'd ever done in my life. And since then, I've had some successes on my own and some failures on my own. And it's really kind of the intrinsic piece has been really good, that I'm trying to be true to myself and do the work that I consider that has value, which is connecting with others and teaching and trying to help people learn better skills with software or get their data just work, so they actually have something that instead of a broken database. But then on the other hand, I have these sort of extrinsic constraints where I got to eat, I got to pay rent, and unfortunately everything just keeps going up and up across the board. So I kind of have a conflict with what is intrinsically valuable to me, and I've known all these years, versus what is extrinsically value. And one thing I'm having a hard time with, and I've always had a hard time with, is just how much this country values money and wealth and having so much, whereas other countries have so little, and they seem to put more emphasis on relationships and being happy and mental and physical health. Whereas in America, it seems like most of our motto is just work, 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 work until you retire at 60 or 70. Maybe you have 10 good years left, and then the rest of it, health is just going down the tubes. So that's my spiel.
Thank you for sharing. I'll quickly note that the reason I say like this isn't about demonizing the extrinsic is because we need both. We can't just say, let's just do what's meaningful and forget like survival. That'll figure itself out. Like, it's meeting what's purposeful and what's practical in the center. But I also think sometimes we can fall into this trap of some black and white thinking around, what's meaningful and purposeful and fulfilling can only be possible in entrepreneurial space, and the corporate space is just terrible. No one cares. It's all about the bottom line. And, something you just shared with me is like, what really matters is connecting with people and teaching them. And you can totally do those things in a corporate role. Not to say that that's the right path for you necessarily, but I think we need to have our basic needs met as well in order to stay open to the fulfilling path. When you think about the different stages of psychological needs, like your basic needs need to be met first. Right. And when those are met, which for most of us, they are met, and for many of us, we're still operating in survival mode, even though we don't really need to be. When those are met, we can really open up to the idea of pursuing more fulfilling paths. And so probably too much to get into within the context of this larger group, but what I'll say is the challenge you're experiencing, you're not alone in that journey. And I know there's a way to meet in the middle to experience both. So thanks for sharing and being the brave person to step up first.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah, Carol.
I just wanted to follow up on what Michael said, because I had a similar situation, only I was 66 at the time, where I was in it was a nonprofit job, but it was like being in corporate because it was a very large nonprofit. And I thought I would like it. I had worked in smaller nonprofits, but I found out it was not good for me. It just did not, I was not happy. And I quit after a year. I just quit. And I had nothing to go to. And I gave a couple of months notice. And in the interim, went to therapy to get some support for that. And I remember at one point saying to the therapist, I'm afraid, and this comes to the intrinsic messages about process that I had received all my life. It's like, but I need to be sure that I'm being realistic and that I'm being responsible, because that's what it'd been drummed into my head. Be realistic and be responsible about, as opposed to a creative way of making a living, which was not realistic or responsible. And the therapist stopped me and said, are you responsible? And that shone a light. It was like, yes, I am responsible. So even if I make a choice to go my own direction independently, I am a responsible person who will bring that to whatever I'm doing. And that helped me to go ahead and take a step and become self-employed. And here I am today, head above water. The extrinsic is, like you said, will I have enough to retire to take care of myself in my old age? That's real. And that's constantly there at the same time.
Thanks, Carol. It's a helpful perspective. Any other reflections from your own list?
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a brave soul. Well, like you were saying, with some of the messages we get from our family, the be respectful. One of the notes I'm writing here is the two big R's: respect and responsibility.
Mm.
Take responsibility. Even if, various places I've worked, it was, well, I wasn't the one who caused the problem, but I'll take responsibility for the cleaning it up. Why would you, if it's not your fault, why would you do that? Was the response I got. I'm going, well, somebody needs to do it. It needs cleaned up. I know how to clean it up. Even though I didn't make the mess, I'll clean it up.
Mhm.
There's no fault or anything. It's just a matter of, it's a job that needs done. I know how to do it, so I'll do it.
Mm.
And it was just kind of shoot them in the head kind of attitude, and if you respect others, we went to Sam's Club today and I shocked the hell out of one of the ladies. Pardon my language, sorry about that. She was one of the facility people. She went around and took care of trash bins. I told her, thank you. She kind of looked. What you do makes my shopping experience better. So I appreciate your work. Thank you. And she was just, but I always make a point to, thank the people, the facility people, the people who are bringing in the carts from the parking lot, the people who are picking up the trash. They are often considered invisible. I've been there, done that. And the day that somebody said, thank you, when they saw me doing my job, meant the world to me. I mean, it made my whole day. It made my week. Somebody acknowledged and appreciated what I was doing.
Yeah.
Hot diggity. So I make it a point that when I see these people and they're doing their job, and it's the dirty, ugly jobs, I thank them.
Yeah.
Even if they're not doing it for me, they're doing a job that makes my life easier, makes my life better, makes my life more beautiful.
Right.
So, but, it's that little bit of respect that I can give them by saying, thank you.
And how does it make you feel yourself to be acting in line with that value?
It's just a basic human courtesy. And so for me, it's just, why would I not do something like that? I would feel less about myself if I didn't do that. But to me, that's the baseline. That's the basic, that's like feeding myself.
Right.
I have to eat food. And so not only do I have to eat food, I need to, it's part of basic living, is treating others with decency and respect. But a lot of the things that I was taught, you have to have a job. You have to do this. You have to do that. You have to make enough money to support your family. You have, as a woman, I have to get married and have children. I had decided well before I was 19, I had already decided I was not cut out to be a parent. At the time, I didn't know it was the ADD, but I had flare rage. I now know how to constructively channel that energy into different things so that I don't feed that monster. but I would have killed the poor kid. So I never wanted to be a parent.
Mm.
I love children. Right about midnight, well done on a rye crisp cracker, maybe a little cheese. Otherwise, no, I am not good around children. Teenagers, young adults, I can handle. So if I was teaching, I would have to teach like high school, junior college kids.
Laura,
But-
I'm gonna quickly interrupt just so we can
Yeah.
make sure everyone gets a chance to just do the last activity. But I do feel like it's moments like that where you challenge the norm, or at least the norm in your own system. Like everyone's
Yeah.
having kids. Actually, I don't want to do that. Like it's the repetition and the practice of going against the grain that creates the resilience to keep challenging the norm and deciding how to lead yourself.
Yeah,
And
and I just have to lead by what in here I know is right.
thank you for sharing your journey and story.
Mike, get in contact with me. I've got some ideas for you.
All right, let me hop to the last slide here, because this is maybe the most important part of the activity. Looking at your list and your reflections of how they've impacted you, how these messages about success have served you or not served you, or maybe they did serve you, but it was now it's outdated and it won't serve you any longer. What messages do you want to keep for yourself? And what messages do you want to get let go of or hold more loosely? And so again, this isn't about letting go of all extrinsic measures. This is not saying, I don't care about money. I don't care about putting food on the table. But maybe it's about shifting our priorities or our focus to some of the more intrinsic measures. Because what's also intrinsic is more in our control. Like if I say, my measure of success is that I'm acting in integrity every day, rather than my measure of success is that I get 5 new clients every day, the former is in my control and I can be successful every freaking day if that's how I'm measuring it. The latter is not in my control. And if I'm holding that measure really tightly, I'm going to feel like a failure really often. So you get to decide how you want to lead yourself. And finally, part 3 of that is what's maybe a new definition, not the one definition you want to abide by, but one new definition that maybe encapsulates some of your reflections that feels personally meaningful and you can start acting more in line with. So I'll give an example for myself. If my new definition is, I want to show up authentically or as authentically as possible in all contexts, maybe some actions I can take are making sure I'm transparent or straightforward in email communication, making sure I'm genuine in speaking presentations like this one and not giving mixed messaging, making sure that my conversations personally and professionally are led from a place of genuine care and authentic expression. So I know we're almost getting to the time here, so take a minute to think about what your new definition might be. And when you have it, Joyce, do we have 2 minutes for people to share in the chat box maybe?
Yeah, I think, a couple minutes. I mean, we may run over just a bit, and there's really not that much at the end other than for me to announce the next speaker, for January. So sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. For whoever's ready, if you can share in the chat box what that new definition is for you, or maybe it's one you've already had and you're just being reminded. I'd love to see and share in the chat box.
Mhm.
Linda, I work with integrity and honesty. Yeah. These are in your control. You get to determine. Laura, you basically called it out before I asked, but it looks like maybe your definition would have something to do with respect and responsibility. Lori, I'm doing work that is joyful and meaningful and impacts others in a positive way, recognizing that my own definition is the only thing that matters, not the measures others expect of me. Right. It's your own definition. Only you get to decide if you're successful or if you're a failure. No one else gets to decide that for you. Dave, I used to beat myself up when folks didn't implement the budget they paid me to help them create. I recalibrated to where I empathize the teaching of money habits and give them control of their budgets. Yeah, I love that. Joyce, committed to showing up on LinkedIn, right? So this is still action oriented, not necessarily values oriented, although we could break that into a deeper value, but that's still fully in your control. You get to show up on LinkedIn every day. No one else can prevent you from doing that. I like it. Lisa, rather than feeling desperate to make a new sale, work from a place of service of how I can truly help people make an impact, no matter how small, right? And I think that's, in running your own business, it's so hard not to feel discouraged when sales aren't coming in. And when you notice you get in that place, it's like, that's when I, recalibrate to my definition. It's like, okay, wait a second. What really matters? What do I care about? Am I showing up the way that I said I wanted to show up? And if that's the measure I'm looking at, then I am successful. I know we're at close to the end here, so I'm just going to share quickly my email if anyone wants to get in touch or has any questions about any of this. And I always like to offer a complimentary consultation to walk through any of the content that we talk about. So feel free to take me up on that if this work feels aligned with where you're at in your life and in your work.
And as we're wrapping this part up, you're usually okay with having your slides be sent out to folks, right, Ariel?
Totally
So
fine.
that's why, thank you. I asked for people's emails because then I can send you not only the recording of what we've just gone through right now, and I'll be actually turning that off because I think we're really done. Not the meeting, but with the